This is What is up, everyone? Marc here again with another installment of Pandemic Pantry Extra, and today we're taking another crack at cookies. This time it's chocolate chip, another one of my favorites. And we're gonna start with the granddaddy of them all, the Nestle Toll House chocolate chip cookie recipe. We're gonna make a few changes, one experimental and one just to cut down on the size. And we'll see how it works out. Let's get started. All right, so any of you who watched the Snickerdoodle experiment installment of Extra, if you didn't, check it out, will recognize some similarities here almost immediately. You know, on some levels, this sort of cookie is this sort of cookie. So the changes that we're making here. The original Nestle Toll House cookie, the same recipe that is on every bag of Nestle semi-sweet chocolate chips that you buy, is too big. It makes 5 dozen cookies. I'm cutting that in half. And additionally, I do not have brown sugar. So I'm going to try a substitution model where I use additional white sugar in place of the brown sugar, and an equal measure cups for tablespoons of molasses. So that's to say, if you have a recipe that calls for a cup of brown sugar, I would use a cup of white sugar and a tablespoon of molasses. If it had a cup of brown sugar, it would be, a half a cup of brown sugar, it would be a half a cup of white sugar and a half a tablespoon of molasses. So I'm just gonna add the molasses in at the same time as I add the sugar and the vanilla. And this is going to come together very similarly to the Snickerdoodles, as I said. So, first thing we're going to do is take our flour. This is 1 1/8 cups of all-purpose flour. We're going to add to that half a teaspoon of baking soda and half a teaspoon of salt. And we're just going to give that a little whiskey business. Just enough to get it kind of combined. And that is that. Then what we want to do is take our sugar. Ooh. This is 3/4 of a cup of white sugar. And we're going to add that to our bowl that has already in it 1 full stick of butter softened. It's been sitting at room temperature. That's 8 tablespoons. And we're gonna sort of mash this together. Okay. At this point, I want to add in my molasses, which in this case is going to be about a half a tablespoon. And I'm just going to use the regular tablespoon here because it's going to stick in here and it's a mess. And I'm trying to be pretty accurate, but, you know, close enough. And to just help get it combined, I'm going to kind of drizzle it all in. And then we want a half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And we're going to continue creaming the butter and sugar together and getting the molasses and vanilla mixed in there. Okay, now thanks to the molasses in here, you can tell that this is relatively well mixed because we've got, you know, kind of even color throughout. So next we're going to take 1 egg, and again I like to crack it on a flat surface. If you crack it on the edge of something, you get pieces of shell everywhere. And I like to crack it into a separate container so that I know it's a good egg and there's nothing in there that's gonna ruin things. And we're just going to continue to mix this now to get the egg well incorporated into our butter and sugar and molasses and vanilla mixture. Okay, that's fairly well incorporated. At this point, we want to start slowly mixing in our flour mixture, flour, salt, and baking soda. More flour. And again, similar to the snickerdoodles, this is a recipe that if you're making it full size, you kind of need well, you don't need, but it's a lot easier with an electric mixer, especially a stand mixer. And, you know, a lot of people don't have a stand mixer, and some, you know, a lot of people don't even have a hand mixer or a handheld electric mixer. So it's nice to be able to do this just in a bowl, hand powered, with a spatula. And let's get the last of the flour in there. Okay, and last but not least, we want to put in 1 cup of chocolate chips, minus the couple that I'm eating. And you just want to make sure that the chocolate chips are pretty evenly distributed, as evenly as you can get. Okay, now the other way that we're changing this up is not that different. In fact, it's a variation. It's printed on the package of Nestle's chocolate chips. And it is that I always have an issue creating like tablespoon size or teaspoon size cookies and, you know, balls and getting them to be the same size. So the variation they do is to roll the dough into a log and then cut it at even intervals into slices to get theoretically more evenly sized cookies. So I'm going to try to do that. The other bonus to this is that you can freeze the log of dough as is, wrapped tightly in plastic, and it stays good for a couple of months, and you can thaw it out and make cookies whenever you want. So I'm not doing that here. I'm going to bake these tonight, but it'll be good to know if it works, you know. So in order for this to work, I'm going to have to let this dough sit in the refrigerator for an hour. I want it to chill completely so that it can be formed into a log without just turning into a gooey mess. Then once we get it formed into a log, we'll cut it into slices, throw it on some cookie sheets, and get it in the oven. And before you know it, we'll have cookies. All right, so I'll see you here in about an hour. All right, we're back again, and it's actually been a little more than an hour. I kind of wanted to make sure that this was going to work. I've never done this before, so I wasn't quite sure what to expect. I put some parchment paper down and actually taped it down just so that it doesn't stick. I don't know. Just trying to get all of this out of here. You know what? I don't think I like this log method. I'm just going to roll these into balls and make cookies. Save some time. So with the molasses, I don't know how these are gonna spread So I'm going to just do them 10 to a sheet and just make them in a few batches. I can already tell that these are going to be different sizes. I mean, I have a hard time. The whole reason I wanted to do this a different way. But we'll wait for the oven to finish preheating and get these in about 8 to 11 minutes-ish. I'll probably put them in about 10. And we'll bake these in batches and we'll get all these cooked and see what we end up with. There we go. The oven is preheated. Let me wash my hands and let's get these in. All right, let's get these in the oven. So I'll have these go for 5 minutes and turn them halfway through. Have them go for another 5 minutes, and we'll meet you back here when we take them out of the oven. All right, so as I thought, the cookies did spread. The first batch already came out, or first 2 trays already came out, and this is the third. So you can see I did what I could to separate them while they're still warm. All right, so we're gonna give these all a few minutes to cool and we'll try them out. All right, I think it's time to eat some cookies. And yeah, you know, I mean, they could look better. We're all pretty much stuck together. What can you do? I mean, I don't think I've ever met anyone that said no to an ugly cookie. I don't know what to pick first. Looks good. And of course, you can't have a cookie without some milk. That's a Toll House cookie. It's chewy on the inside, but it's crispy along the outside edge. Really good. I think that might be a side effect of how it's spread more. Come on. Who says no to that? Nobody ever. Well, thanks for joining me for another quick one. If you like the video, if you like the recipe, and who does not like a recipe for chocolate chip cookies, give it a thumbs up, comment down below, and subscribe. You know, just click the watermark in the corner or the red button down there. See you next time.